welcome! The first Twitch for me for what feels like forever, because my friend Ravy has been taking over the mantle the last couple of weeks during my time making all these meetings and setting up 2016 to be amazing. So what I wanted to do today was to really just have a bit of fun and an overview on the stuff that I've been messing about with in the last couple of weeks. I say messing about, it's all very serious professional work, but it's also a great deal of fun. So it always feels like I'm in a mad, crazy workshop or lab where I can continually experiment with cool things. So what I'm going to do is launch Game Guru, just to get to a nice, comfortable environment. And the things I've been working on, really, apart from organising all the work that's going to be done during this year, is I had a lot of backlog in terms of model packs, assets that were coming in, but not getting to you guys. They were they needed testing, they needed renaming, organising, converted into packs or adding to existing ones. So, unless you've been asleep, you may not know about the Sci-fi DLC, which we released... when did we release that? Couple of days ago. I think we released it on Monday, so it's only been a few days, but it's been received much acclaim. I think people like it a lot. I'm just going to see if I've got it here, because I may have installed it. Yeah. Now, I am not going to go through this model pack again, because that was done in a previous Twitch. I had the fortune to catch Ravy's a Twitch where he went through all the assets and showed you what you can do. You may notice though in the DLC that if you decide to purchase, you start browsing, this one's much bigger, because as that Twitch was going on, I was adding more content and making a couple of final touches, some massive final touches. For example, the whole character system. So you can now have characters, aliens, marines, a spaceman. I'll pick this guy. Maybe this wasn't in. Now, maybe the characters were in, but there was a lot of work with the scripting, and other objects were being added, and I also created like an entire level. So this is a space guy, but obviously it's much better if you see him in context. So certainly when I'm doing a DLC collection, I like to make a level just to sort of pull all the assets together, so you don't have to drag them in one by one. You can just see the whole thing. And that's really what I did, and also it allowed me to see which assets were missing, which is why when I started building a level I said, need this, need that, need the other, and those were made requested, made and then added to the DLC, which allowed me to create a much more rounded level. So I'm not going to play through the entire game. You'll see a video on the Steam product page to do that, but you'll certainly see some of my favourites. I actually tried to recreate the moon landing, only this landing wasn't so successful. There's bits of spaceship everywhere, but that kind of feeds into the plot. You've got some really nice rocks in this pack. You know, we're not calling it Rock Pack, but if you really wanted some of the best rocks in Game Guru, well, check these ones out. They blend really well with a sandy terrain floor. What you'll see here in the game, this second ship is invisible, and what happens is eventually during your mission the aliens kindly transport a brand new replica of your spaceship, and then this little spaceman can be rescued and he goes off into the stars and lives happily ever after. This is my idea of what would happen if we tried to colonize a Mars or a planet. You know, so you've obviously got the terrain and the rocks everywhere, but then you build your superstructures, your radar, your power generation. You've got things to eat. You know, you're trying to cultivate the Martian soil directly with these special pod things. And of course, this is sort of a base in construction, but there must have been a recent sandstorm because they're being covered with the sand rolling in like that. Then you got basically your engineering pod, which has all the things you need to survive on a brutal planet. So we've got our engineer guy, we've got rovers, we've got tools and containers, and fuel, different chemicals you might need. And then if you wander off into the canyon, I say canyon, I mean they're really just big blobs of mountains, but you could do a lot of nice work with these rocks and pile them up and make some nice canyon-y effect. But I really just wanted to get on and show all the assets. I didn't really focus too much on the landscape. And then you need a password to open this door, which opens readily once you've got that. See this little trigger point here? I actually switched from a nice windy sound, which was what you get outside, to a nice spacey, spooky music. Spooky spacey, I'll call it. And then that gives you an idea that, oh, I'm inside now with a different sort of atmosphere. We don't really have I wanted transporters, you know, so you could beam to different places. Don't you walk halfway up and down the map like grocery shopping games often do. So what I decided to do is add a decal. And when you get near the decal, you transport somewhere else. And then when you want to transport back, you appear here, just outside this goo cylinder. The good news is, if you've read my previous dev blogs, the artist has kindly provided a proper transporter pad with shimmering lights. So you just walk onto it, transport there and transport back on the same pad. It's much more civilized. There's a guard, and I've also got a laser. Can't get past this laser until the guard is satisfied, and then the laser drops. What you may not know, if I just grab this, pull it out, it's a fence. Remember those fences that you saw earlier? I just buried the posts in the walls, kept the beams, which use self-emissive lighting in when you set the shader mode to highest, so it has a nice glow to them. But yeah, simply by hiding the posts, you can create laser beams, and you can change the height. You could even change the scale if you wanted to. You know, you could cover the whole door if you felt so inclined. So yeah, you can use existing assets for multiple purposes just by hiding bits of it, rotate, scale, all that kind of cool stuff. There's a alien curiosity swimming around in its own juices. That's a critical object that was stolen by the aliens, and you have to return it to the aliens. And here's just some regular scientific equipment, some laptops and stuff like that. So if were you to follow the transporter, I can go the long way around. You can go all the way along. You've got some nice big fuel or generators, whatever you want to call them. You've got some cryostasis chambers, so that's the rest of the crew. You guys haven't having a bit of a kip because the mission has started yet. And then we leave. The car breaks out into a strange valley with rocks and what we are calling the Alien Temple. Now it's actually much higher than this, actually, the Alien Temple. You see it's this big, and it's a pretty big structure. But if you actually click it and go up, it's actually got little people. But I figured, you know, I didn't want it too grandiose, and I wanted these little people as separate objects. So as an introduction to the sci-fi pack, I just dropped them down and you end up with a slightly different construction. I really do like these rocks. Look, they're really in the highest detail, in the shader set to highest. These things really shine, really nice, and lots of different ones: curvy bits, straight bits, short bits. Do you like? And then finally, Alien wants his artifact back, and it's put a great big rock in your way, so you can't get to the bit you need. And of course, what happens is, as soon as you give him what he wants, he walks out the way. The rock gets out the way, and the aliens have built a ship for the spaceman to be rescued by. And these little glowing decals, those are just to show that there's transporter tech in this cathedral. And you go up to it, you press E, it says, right, I'll transport the thing, and then it'll go whee all the way back to the beginning. And then you show this rocket, so it suddenly appeared, and I spawned a little tiny green rock. That's where the player would spawn, and then the alien have delivered on their promises, and then a little script to move the ship up into the sky, and you've won the game. So I only had like a day to write this, but I'm pretty pleased with the result. I think you can see a lot of different game elements, like talking to characters, helping the engineer, unlocking doors, getting aliens to cooperate, transporting spacecraft and the player. And not a single shot was fired, not a single explosion was triggered. It's a non-violent game, created in Game Guru. In 2016, we're hoping to expand this trend in the directions of third person, and if we're very lucky and if we keep our eye on the ball, a little bit of racing, a little bit of physics to help with that regard, so you can fly over sand dunes and stuff. But the idea is it's not just about FPS, it's not just about grabbing a gun and shooting stuff, it's equally about your imagination. What kind of game do you want to make? It doesn't have to involve shooting, it can involve talking to people, solving problems, overcoming obstacles, collecting things, trading, whatever it happens to be. It's entirely your call. And thanks to Lua, you can pretty much script whatever you want, within reason. There are things that you literally can't do because there isn't a command for it, and that's where I step in and help. So that gives you probably a finished picture of what was started in the last Twitch session, and that's what you get with the Sci-fi DLC, and I think it's really cool, and I really enjoyed working on it. I didn't create the graphics, I'm not that good, we have talented artists to do that for us, but I really enjoyed the making of the level. Having these high quality graphics and just being able to drop them down, it felt like I could get all the credit for this creation, but really the credit does lie in the author of the art itself, because they're really top draw stuff. But that's not what I wanted this Twitch to be about, so let me press the new button. But we've got plenty of time. What I want to show you is what I'm actually tinkering and working on right now. The stuff that are going to be added to existing DLCs. So it's not just a case of let's just stop everything and create lots of art and do another DLC and grab some more money. It's certainly not that at all. The Sci-fi DLC, in my mind, is kind of one of the last big ones before we start going back to all our previous DLCs and start adding graphics as requested by the community. If you feel the Buildings DLC is missing something, make a suggestion. If you think some of the mega packs aren't rounded enough, give us a suggestion. Specifically, the Fantasy Pack and the Desert Death Valley DLCs are the ones we feel that can have the most added to it. And so we started in that vein. The first thing I did after the Sci-Fi was the Death Valley DLC. Now we're going to rename this. We're pretty certain we're going to rename this from Death Valley to Death Valley Combat. And the reason is, Death Valley is an actual geographical place, and the confusion might be that this pack recreates that environment. And really it's more fictitious. Death Valley is more of a description of a valley in which death resides, and you have to fight your way out of it, as demonstrated by all the soldiers that you actually get in this pack, and the many rocks to build up your fictitious desert, and the myriad of scenery elements to build up a base. I must apologise for my voice, it's not at full flow because I'm just recovering from massive lurgy cold that struck me when I was away on holiday, and I brought it back with me. But I'm getting to the end of it now, so I just wanted to know I'm not putting on a silly voice, I'm actually just coming out of the tunnel of the lurgy phase. Ooh. So yeah, what I wanted to show you from this one, which was added, whether we've released these or not yet, I've certainly uploaded all the files and tested them. They're ready to be released. We're just waiting for the next stage, i.e. the next person to get involved, and then push it onwards until you actually finally get it on your Steam. But one thing that you notice may be new is something like this. Actually run around, it's probably the best way to demonstrate it. So I don't have to keep bouncing it in and out. Let me just have a quick shuffle there. What else we added? Yeah, targets. We added. I'll put a target down. Tents. Yeah, we added a tent. Put a tent down. I think crates. Yeah, we did lots of crates. Let's put some crates down. But I don't want to label the point. Suffice to say that we looked at the Death Valley DLC and we thought, let's put some more in. So that's what we did. So you'll often notice in sort of rapid response military outposts that they don't have time to build grand villas. So what they use is cargo containers or of a similar ilk, and basically just rig them out with what they need, and then if they have to move the outpost they can do it pretty quickly by getting a lot of trucks involved. So what you have here is that kind of construction. You can jump all over it. The stairs work. The space is right. You know, if you wanted to, you can go in F9 mode, E, any items that you've actually got that you've picked, like what should we say? A crate. Can we get a crate in here? If we can lift it up to the sky, so it comes through the floor. Dang, it's little time, isn't it? Oh, is it 2 I know? Yeah, probably. We'll just float up into the sky. There you go. So yeah, you can actually populate the insides if you wanted to. One good thing about this is, let me just go to F9 mode. I actually keep using collision and physics, even when you're floating around trying to edit the scene. So sometimes you can actually float through the roof, or go outside of the roof, and then when you try and float through the roof, thinking you can go through the roof, you can't. So yeah, you could put desks and monitors and other things here to really populate that out. Maybe some observation equipment out here, but then of course you can run all over it. And if you had a jetpack, I don't, so I'm going to use F9 to float around, and then you can jump on the roof and add more things here. I suppose if you wanted to, you could get another container that doesn't have so much stuff around it. Like, what's this? It's a small one like that, you see, and then just stick that on top of it. So now, when you look down at the floor, it's quite a large construction. Like this. And just keep adding and adding and adding. You could even probably do quite an interesting 5-story building if you wanted to. Obviously, there's a couple of gotchas, like these doors. If you try to walk out of one, you do yourself quite an injury. You know, but there's no reason why you can't sort of construct ramps and things to sort of connect them all up. It's really up to you what you do. But of course, the ultimate thing that you want is the actual buildings that click together very quickly and nicely, and that's the building editor. That's at the top of the voting board right now, and that's what I'll be working on next as the next big major thing. So watch out for that. But in the meantime, you know, lots more buildings in the Death Valley DLC very soon if you've actually got that one. And so I'll leave that for you to explore. And finally, the one I actually was working on today and stopped working on it because I had to do this Twitch is the Fantasy Pack. We all are familiar with the Fantasy Pack, I think, even though we may not have ownership of it. With the Fantasy Pack, you can go into what I would call medieval / fantasy. So think of Conan the Barbarian, where you've got the sort of medieval civilization, but with mystery and fancy and sort of good deeds, bad deeds in equal measure. So we've got a couple of monuments covered in moss and things. We've got statue walls that you can use grid to click together into very nice, huge compounds. But what I added, I waited for the art and then I just renamed them and popped them in, the ones I think you'll like, involve the characters folder. Now, we did have characters in the first Fantasy Pack DLC, but to be fair, the animations weren't top draw. The feet would sink through the floor, the attack was a bit lolly, and stuff like that. So I wanted two things to happen. One, I wanted more actual characters that could fight you. So I wanted barbarians, I wanted knights, I wanted skeletons like in Jason and the Argonauts, and I wanted rangers. So we just started with the female rangers just to sort of kind of equalise a little bit, so it wasn't all a male-oriented medieval fantasy. Those are the characters, and I'm going to introduce those a little bit later. But one thing I also wanted was to update those animations. So all these characters now, desiccated priest, goblin, imp, orc and ogres, reptilians, and the flying guys, and the Taurus, they've all been reanimated and then refined in the script. And what I mean by that in general is if you added these characters before, they were all the same size, because the animations and the model export themselves were creating like problems. So now we've got a desiccated priest. He's not sinking through the floor. He's got a nice idle animation. You know, much better animation. We've got a goblin. So he stands like that. We've got an imp. He flies. And we've got an... oh, we'll not show you the knight yet. Now here's the difference. Look. Ogre stands a little higher. If I pick an orc, pop him there. And then a reptilian. And then Taurus. Look at the size of Taurus. Ha ha ha. So now what we've got is these characters, they've all got new scripts. If I actually just go somewhere else for a bit, marker, start me over here please, they don't want to be constantly attacked. Face that way, and then we give ourselves an attack of reptilian attack. We go and have a look at him. That's very interesting, isn't it? Bob, 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 bob. Right. So you may have noticed, I said I improved the animations, and then you may have noticed that if you've improved the animation so much, why is his feet sinking into the ground like that? And why is his feet sinking into the ground like that? Well, that would be an amazing question. And the answer is, before I started this Twitch session, I went to Steam and did validate all files. Now, Steam's very clever. What it will actually do, if it notices that a file has been corrupted or deleted, it will replace it from an original copy off Steam. And the last thing I did is erase all my lovely hard work. The good news is I can reinstate it. What I'd like to do is delete these guys and this guy. And because I want a nice little terrain, I'm just going to save this as test stuff. It'll load it in. It shouldn't have any characters now. Yeah, just some buildings over there. And what I'm going to do is get my fantasy pack, which is all very cool, and I'm going to copy it straight into my Steam stuff like that. And what that basically does, it would do what your Steam would do. It would, when we update the fantasy DLC, it would actually update this. And now the next time you want to add in a character like desiccated priest, well, that could have been better. Goblin, a squashed goblin, and an imp. What would an imp look like under these circumstances? Oh, lovely. Okay, so let's see what we actually posted in here. Characters, found a goblin. Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah, we've got our goblin. What about the date stamp on 2nd of the 12th, 2015? Would that be it? Is this the one? Imp, 27th, 1st, 2016. Yeah, that's fine. Let's assume it's all them DBOs are left over from the previous one. Yeah? That's a very good guess of mine. Okay, so we save that. You should get rid of those two characters because they don't exist in the level anymore. Reload it without them, which means it doesn't know anything about them now. So we should be able to drop one in. Yes, see? This software can't embarrass its creator. So there's our goblin. Desiccated priest. Now, the deleting of DBOs, you won't have to do that when you update your fantasy. I'm going to make sure that happens. But if it does do what you saw, then yeah, delete the DBOs. They're only temporaries. What DBOs are? They allow you a model to load faster. That's all they really do. They're completely temporary. So here's our imp. And you notice this time the feet aren't sinking through the floor. But you'll also notice how big our orc is compared to that last one. because these were the original sizes, and I shrunk them all down for the last fantasy pack just to create a little bit of because the animations are pretty ropey. When you made the character really big, it kind of made it worse. It just really exaggerated it. And then when you went to Ragdoll, it was even worse because it splat all over the place or sink to the floor. So making them all the same size resolved that issue a little bit. But now the entire objects have been properly re-exported and animated and all that kind of stuff, we could restore them to their former glory. So now you can see you've got a nice range of character heights. We'll forget this on Skelly for now. Was it a Taurus? Yeah. Okay, and the Taurus is the biggest one from Greek mythology. So, animations are better, no feet are sinking through the floor. If I was starting there, wasn't I? If I come around here a little bit, try and challenge these guys. I'm going to give myself some health though, because I don't want to get smashed up. And I want to be able to shoot them pretty quickly. Move on to the next one. So if I apply that as me, play. Now we're going to see them all attack. Now, they've all got their own scripts this time, so they're a little bit more unique. So, and also they've got headshots. I can take that guy down in one. Of course, these scripts, you can edit them any way you want. This is the reptilian guy. He'll attack. Yes. Thank you. And this is the orc with his swords. Thank you. And this is the imp. He's a little impish guy. And then you got the ogre who'll just try and bash his brains in. We don't want him distracting us. And then with one headshot, against his head, he's gone. You see, because now the export is correct, the ragdoll works great. So even large creatures kind of fall slowly like you might imagine they would. And here's our goblin. So he's using his axe to try to mince me. Wait for a sec. And then the desiccated priest with his, well, whatever the thing is holding, probably a leg bone. There you go. And dead. So, improve the animations, improve the scripts, they actually attack better, they move better, imps and goblins can move fast. And the great news is there's lots of other animations that you may want to use in the future. I've only done the basics, really. If I had infinite time, sure, I would go in and I'd use all the animations that are now available to you. But if you wanted to kind of leapfrog me on that and have a play around, I'll show you. There's, in the Fantasy Pack Characters folder, there's something called Goblin Animation List.txt. And all these are custom animations, just for that goblin. Every character has its own unique animations. They're not just the same animation rig slapped onto 7 different characters. They all have different animation numbers, which is why I had to do 7 different scripts for each of the characters. But of course that now means you've got really proper idle for the goblin. It can walk and strafe, it can run and run at an angle, it can crouch down and then move around in a crouch position. It's also got 2 different attacks, 2 different blocks, it can pick stuff up, and you can actually trigger some artificial hit. If you throw an object at it or you hit him something, you can have him react without falling over. So you don't have to kill him, but he'll still react to it. So all these are all stuck inside the model, waiting for you to tap into them if you want. As I said, at some point in the future, when the DLCs have the kind of content that the community believe shows good value, and there's no more real complaints about the value of the DLCs, and the core product is saturated with objects and everyone has enough objects to get on and make lots of different games, then maybe there's time to go back and add more sophistication to these fantasy creatures so that they will walk and then run in certain situations and then crouch in certain situations and have a good combat system of attacking and blocking, because all that animation's done just need to be done in the script, and it really is just script. There isn't really a command I need to write so that someone can finish what I started to actually do this super cool melee script system. It's all here, and the scripts themselves, all you're going to do is go to Files, Script Bank, Fantasy, That's a new folder that was created for this update. They were all using Fantasy Creature .lua because they all had the same animation rig. Now they all have different ones. So you'll see you've got a different script for the Goblin, Imp, Ogre, Orc, Priest, Reptilian and Taurus. So you can go into any one. Let's go into the Goblin. As you see, you set him up with just by idling. You tell him what his attack frame is going to be. If it finds a waypoint, it will join that and walk around the waypoint. If you get too close, you'll actually start trying to attack you. And this sort of controls that attack process. If he's really far away, he'll try and charge towards you. He'll modulate his speed, so he'll run a little bit faster towards you. I'm using Dark AI, so that's built into Game Gurus, so control pathfinding and stuff like that. And other bits and bobs, and then right at the end, if you actually hit the head, then you'll actually get to kill the character in one shot. But you know, you might want to delete that. That's a bit of a powerful thing to do and instantly dispatch every enemy that you've ever got in your game, just with one hit. That'd be a bit cruel. So you might want to remove that, it's entirely your call. But that's the script side of it, and as I said, you can expand this script to be the most sophisticated melee combat system ever. No problem. And you have the animations to do it, but this gives you a starting point. I've shown you how to trigger off a few animations within the context of the state engine for this character. But that's not the best bit. There is more. Right, you've seen the new and improved characters. So it's the same characters. So if you had a level which had this guy in, and he was like really small, next time you play the level, it'll be that big. It'll do some serious damage. So you might want to watch for that. But I like the fact that you got characters of different sizes. I think it creates much more interesting games. Now the thing that you didn't have before are the characters, as in the people. So I'm just going to get rid of our creatures, largely because they're going to try and attack me all the time. I'm going to put a new start marker here, and I'm going to add in our 4 characters. So we have 4. Introducing Barbarian, think of Conan. You have the Knight, think of Monty Python. You have Ranger, female, think of Lord of the Rings. And finally, think of Skeleton, as in Jason and the Argonauts. So I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to run it. I'm going to show you a few tricks on how to instantly make these characters look better. Because by default, we set the engine up for performance. But really, what you can do is set the shaders to highest, increase the shadow, reduce the ambience everyone gets, and increase the surface level a touch. And what you end up with, especially for the, also increase global specular to like 90. Watch what happens to the, see the shininess coming off the armour of the knight? That's that specular component I've just ramped up. So you're going to set the shader for entities to highest, and then you get the best sort of looking output for your characters. Now right now they're a little bit, I wouldn't call them allies, save that they will sort of maybe get in the way if an enemy's trying to attack you. But they're not enemies right now, they're really just pleasant folk. If I try to walk away, run away, they'll try and follow me. Bless them. So the reason why I'm not releasing this one yet is I'm going to do a little bit more work. Because for each of these characters, they each have their own unique weapon. The Barbarian has a great big blood axe. The Skeleton has what's called a skelly sword. The Knight has a Knight sword, a great big Knight sword. And then the Ranger, the best weapon of all, bow and arrow. So she'll have a bow. And I want, when you drop these characters into the game, I want them to be enemies. I want them to attack you. I mean, that's just more fun. So I have the weapons, but I don't like the way they were exported. So what I'm going to do is ask the artist to re-export them. Then I can attach them to the characters by default. And then the next time you drop them in, they'll actually not only have weapons, but I'm going to create scripts for each one as well. So each character will attack in their own unique way. You know, the Knight will probably be slower than the Barbarian because he's laden with armour. But when he hits you, it will hurt. The Barbarian is faster, but his attack is slower because he's carrying a great big whopping axe. Archer prefers probably ranged attacks, so won't engage you at close quarters, will move back and then fire arrows from a safe distance. And where's the skeleton? There he is, hiding around. I'm quite happy for him to be a bit nuts, really. Maybe just go like a berserker. And so the idea is you can drop 5 or 6 of them into the level. They're easy to kill, they're like quite weak, but they're quite ferocious and fast. That might be a nice thing to see for a skeleton friend. But wait, that's not all. And that is not the best bit, I think, about this arrangement of characters. Because what I asked the artist to do was to provide me the characters not as finished assets, but as body parts. And in actual fact, these 4 characters were built using the Game Guru character creator. They were actually made in the character creator. Which means, you can guess, all the body parts are now available in the character creator. Which means you can start mixing and matching. Hooray! I'm going to show you that right now, because we have time. And the one way you can tell when you've got a character creator character is the heads don't highlight. It's useful for me to know what I'm dealing with, but really it's a bug. I would probably want to highlight the head. And maybe make the fact that the character creator character is indistinguishable from regular characters. But if you are interested in what the distinction actually is, if I go to Fantasy Pack characters, I'll show you a desiccated priest. This is an all-in-one. This isn't a character creator character. This was just modelled and then spit out. You'll notice how it's arranged with the model desiccated.x. If I showed you a character creator one, I mean, first look how many files there are. There's the bitmap for the thumbnail, there's the FPE, there's the X file, there's the texture, the alternative X file, the alternative texture. It's quite a long list. The character creator only has 2 files, the thumbnail and the FPE. And the difference is, if you look inside an FPE, it has an extra field called character creator. That's how you know it's a character creator. And when it sees that, it ignores this. Yeah? And it ignores that. Because obviously it's not an Uber soldier, is it? It's running around barbarian, bare-chested. Because the character creator replaces all the models and geometry with what you configure. And you configure it very simply by going into the character creator. So if I just save this, get rid of all the characters, leave the scenery, then go to File, Character Creator, and this is the fun part. Remember also, I also have the Sci-fi DLC installed with my Steam, so I have quite a lot to choose from. So let's pick body first. Remember we had the sci-fi theme, and those sci-fi characters are also character creator body parts that I'm then made into characters that you could just drop in with a single click. Yeah. But they start their life as body parts. So you can have the body, then I can say change the head to a space helmet, or I can have the alien. Where's the alien guy? There he is. So now the alien is nicked a spacesuit running around. And also there's the marine. You can have the marine body to match the marine head. And so the sci-fi shows the fantasy characters' sort of ability to change the body parts within the character creator. But the one I wanted to show you was what we were talking about with that barbarian. So we have the body of a barbarian, but the head could be anything you want. The head could be from any DLC that utilise the character creator body part system. So it's a ranger head and barbarian body. You could have space helmet and barbarian body. You could have space ranger and barbarian body. And the list goes on. Or you could just have a skeletal head and barbarian body. And you see here it says weapons. Right now these are stuck on the default weapons. And it's pretty irrelevant to have like modern day guns when we're really talking about I want to make a medieval game with barbarians. Why would I have an Uzi? But you can do if you want. I mean, I can give this guy an Uzi, and what will happen is once I've done the Fantasy Pack melee scripting and fighting, then I will be looking to expand this menu in the next update, so it will actually include not a fixed set of weapons, but kind of any weapon that's available in Game Guru at that time. So it'll become a very big list very quickly. But I think it will be appreciated because, you know, there are going to be lots of different characters you can make now, and they all won't be modern day soldiers. So the final act really is to save the character. So I'm going to call it Lee's Skelly Thug Monster Uzi Extreme Edition. Save. And then you can back to the editor. Remember, which just has scenery. So we go to where characters are stored. There is Lee's Skelly Thug Monster Uzi Extreme Edition. Facing that. See if I've got enough health to survive the demo. No. Make it 1,000 health. I want to end this carnage, so I'm going to give myself a Colt with 100 bullets. Save and run. Dun 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 dun. So now he's got a skeleton head, a barbarian body, and a modern day Uzi. All thanks to the character creator. Yes. I think it's got headshots in character creator. Let's check. Hey, stop. Yes. The long-awaited headshot. And you can pick up his Uzi and go around and kill other people with it. So that's sort of the best thing I find about adding stuff to the DLC. And there's no reason why in the future, if the community requests it, to have more body parts for the Death Valley Combat DLC. So more soldiers, more body parts and heads and adornments. I mean, what you saw then was in the character creator. If I can jump back in for a second and actually do a serious barbarian, you may have just thought the character creator was mostly just about heads and bodies. I mean, how much variety can you get out of there? Well, actually quite a lot. When you compare everything against everything else, you do quite a lot of crazy combinations. But what you can also do is head attachments. Think. And we've added a few of these as well. So we've actually got the sort of, you know, the Death Skull helmet. You've got the Knight with an open visor. You've got the Knight with a closed visor. The head attachments are gender oriented as well. These are all the hats a guy would wear. If you want all the hats a girl would wear, pick a girl. So we'll choose this head because it had the elven sort of scars thing. And now you've got sort of girly head attachments. But you know, a girl may also want to wear armour, so we've allowed that. You get a nice hairstyle. And if you was an assassin or a ranger, then you'd have the cloak. So you can just see a little cloak over your head. So, you know, sort of an effeminate barbarian. Ta-da! So we've got them as well. So by adding more bits to the character creator, the combinations of characters that you can produce at the end of the day expands exponentially. And it was always my intention that eventually characters wouldn't be these fixed things that we have artists painstakingly craft one by one, but instead have them as the output of our character creator. Because then when you see a character, you think, oh wow, that's really good, but can I take that head and put it somewhere else? The answer would be, yes, absolutely, the character creator characters. So that's really what I wanted to show, and why I think the next Fantasy Pack update, which will be free to all existing Fantasy Pack DLC owners, by the way. This is content that we've spent thousands producing, and we're going to add them to your Fantasy Pack DLC for free, because that's one of our philosophies. We want to make sure Game Guru is from A to Z value for money, the most, you know, easiest and most affordable way, not just to get started with a cube on the screen, but actually make a finished game without spending a fortune. That's really one of our precepts for Game Guru. Now, I must confess, I went down to London, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I took my big monitor with me, and I've not set it up, so I can't see any questions, which is why you probably think I've been ignoring the whole of the Twitch broadcast chatter. I actually don't have any monitor seeing it. I just thought I'd witter on and hope for 46 minutes I was actually broadcasting, and I wasn't just talking to myself. But what I have done is I've actually got a little tab which shows what you're seeing, but lagged by about 15 to 20 seconds. And I'm just going to scroll through the chat. Normally don't do this. Normally these Twitch broadcasts get converted to video. You never see the chat. I have to repeat the question and then the answer, and that's the only way you know a chat has actually been going on. This is the first ever Twitch broadcast where you get to see all the questions in the context of a Twitch interface. So I apologise, or it's a good idea and we should do it again. Yeah? So I'm just going to go through and make sure there's any questions, because we do have about 10 minutes left, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you've got them. Should I talk through that entire list? No, I'll just read it silently. That's probably better. Very happy that you're adding additional content. Yes, I think it's a good idea. You know, less is more. Come from a place of abundance. You know, we don't need 1 billion DLCs flooding Steam. We don't need that. What we want is 7 DLCs of impeccably high quality. That's, I think, what we need. You know, that's where we want to go. Quality of the old fantasy models are very high. Yeah, I like the textures and the geometry to some degree, but the animations were a bit, you know, made me shudder a little bit. So I wanted them replaced. But very kind of you to say the AAA. It's hard. You know, graphics are just getting better and better and better, and we're always playing catch up. I only hope that, you know, within the size of our limited team, that we can actually help and contribute in that regard, without, you know, making it costing the earth. Were you to set aside some time to do a game project from scratch, and then you wanted some art creating, don't be surprised if it's going to cost you thousands upon thousands upon thousands to create all the art for your game. That's just the reality of game development. Game Guru hopes to shelter you and protect you from some of that difficulty and cost and time to market. Very nice, beautiful. Can you do the same with zombies later, please? Yeah. Take your point. Absolutely take your point. The zombies animations are kind of better than what the Fantasy Pack ones were, but the scripts haven't had a lot of time on them. You know, the zombies kind of do the same thing. They just stand there, and then when they see you, slowly march towards you and have like 1 of 2 attacks, and that's it. And that would have been fine if that's all the game was requiring. Problem is, there's been some really excellent zombie games out in the last couple of years, and those zombies can do all sorts of cool stuff. They can climb over walls, they can break through doors, they can push their way out windows, they can mob you, they work really well in close proximity, they can push past each other. Really nice things. That's going to take a lot of art. It might even be a whole zombie DLC, just because it would cost, you know, 5 figures. It would be a very expensive thing to do. So there'd have to be a lot of people in the community saying everything else is fine, we only want zombies now, and then that could materialise. Honor says, do we have to buy new characters in the pack? If you own a fantasy pack, you get all the fantasy characters for free. If you own the sci-fi pack, you get all the sci-fi character packs for free. And that will iterate through all the DLCs that are out there right now. I'm not planning on adding another DLC with more characters, because I want to do it based on genre or graphics theme. I want a new subject to build a DLC around. I'm not going to split a genre into 2 just so I can sell the same sort of genre twice, because I think we'd be missing a trick to make a DLC a really premium item. I mean, in my ideal world, every Game Guru user would own every DLC because of the value, you know, how irreplaceable the content is. Because eventually everyone wants to write every kind of game. So that's my hope. And we won't do that by doing a DLC with 10 items in it. So that's really the strategy behind that. So, blub blub blub. Don't have to buy them. Thanks, Synchro. Good. Moving down to the bottom of the chat. I'd kill to see the zombies redone. I mean, the scripts are available right now. You can go into the scripts themselves and have a tinker with them. See if you can improve the way zombies move and react. There's more animations in those zombie models than I've shown you. You just have to use the... I've written a new script, actually. I might release it. If someone reminds me, I can just put it on the forum for you. And I'm finding it really cool, and I'm going to keep it around. In fact, I might add it to my SVN repository. Now, where is it? It's Steam. You know what? This validation thing doesn't have to clean up your Steam folder. It's deleting things willy-nilly. Where are we? Oh, there it is, viewanimations.lua. I wrote this today, really, to help me out. And I may have demonstrated it in a previous Twitch, but what it does, it allows you to scroll through every animation of a model. You can scroll through really quickly, or if you don't hold down shift, you can step through one by one. It shows you the frame number. It's good to figure out what the start and end frames of a particular animation are, and then you can actually add them to your script as you see fit. For example, here, set animation frames 10 to 137 is an idle loop, which will loop through. So you can use this script to do that. That's a pretty cool script. Anyway, I digress. Any more questions before we run out of time? Reverse animations working net? Yes. The command is set animation speed and then a minus value. And if you set up a loop, it will actually reverse the animation in the opposite direction. It's pretty cool. And that should have been fixed a long time ago, but I apologise for that. It is now fixed in the Christmas build. It's fixed. We're going to make the Christmas build the new public build. Just need to get to next week, and then we can start that update process. A question from AOF20. You messed with something in the timeline, didn't you? What did I say? It must stay the same. Lol. Something in the timeline. Yeah, probably. If we had a timeline, I would definitely have messed with it. So I apologise. But that's development. It's a very organic process. Would be cool if there was a category in the Game Guru store with body parts of the garage character. Another excellent idea. Right now, the store is going through a little bit of a scrutiny because we realised after a couple of months that all that free stuff we was allowing people to download was absolutely choking our servers, generating lots of gigabytes of bandwidth that turned out to be very expensive indeed. So we've given the task to Rick to reform the store and improve this and that and the other. And then once that's done and we've got a nice equilibrium and we've reduced the costs on the store and or we've moved the store to the server, whatever it needs to do to make it a very viable entity for us as well as for users, then I think having a body parts category on the store would be awesome. But because it's such a specialist thing, it's not very easy to create body parts. I'm hoping some people will take one of these DLCs, see how we're doing it, and then do their own, and then send me an email and say, "Look what I've made." I think that'll impress me, and that will trigger me to maybe get it on the store a lot sooner. So there, I've put down the challenge. The gauntlet has been through. And Synchromesh, red screen and heartbeat. Please, an option to turn that off. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. If you want to do that right now, do not wait for my UI work. Locate the blood splat and locate the heartbeat WAV, and just turn the WAV to a silent one, and then just change the alpha to 0 on the blood splat, and then you won't hear a heartbeat and you won't see the blood splat. So that's how you would hack it in. But definitely anything that's the signature, oh that's Game Guru, we're going to be able to change that. The HUDs, the damage system, the splats, and we're going to do it by externalizing the Lua script, so you can change and take control of the mechanisms. That's how we're going to do it. Looks like an error supports Synchromesh's suggestion, and me too, so that's 3 saying yay. How easy is it to create a script in Lua for Game Guru? Not super easy. You couldn't sit down and do one line of code and it'll work. My suggestion is you take a script that already exists and play with it. And the script I would ask you to start with is health.lua. Why? Because look how big it is. That's the entire size of it. And it does something practical. You assign this script to any dynamic entity, and as soon as you get near it, it'll collect the entity, i.e. make the entity disappear, and then give you health. And so you can sort of change things like, you know, how much health you want. So copy and paste that, do like, think, I'm going to have 3 times the amount of health, because this is a big powerful one. Or I can change the text that goes on the screen, or I can change the sound effect, or I don't need to activate something, or it doesn't destroy it, so it constantly keeps giving me health. Just modify existing ones. Just remember that when you change this file name, health.lua, to say myhealth.lua, make sure you change this word and this word to myhealth.lua. Otherwise the whole script won't work. Nice, valuable piece of advice there. But that's my advice. Don't write one from scratch. Take an existing one and modify it slightly until you become a Lua expert. That's how I learned a lot of what I know today. Mike9000 says, don't be the next Payday 2 with DLCs. If by that you mean constantly releasing new DLCs with 3 items each in, absolutely, we're never going to do that. We're going to have DLCs that choke you. It's like DLC so packed that your head will be spinning for what little you paid for it by comparative terms. You just go to any other store that sells assets and you'll know what I mean. Are there any plans for implementing an ally system? No. My plan is to externalise Lua scripts and maybe write one ally script and then let the third-party community create all the other allies. So you'll be able to do allies yourself because the scripted system will let you do that. So that's how you're going to do that. Less is more. I'm going to do less hard coding and more externalising in 2016. Any chance to be able to change also arms and legs in Character Creator in the future? Great idea. We chose entire bodies because the arms kind of went with the bodies and the legs kind of went with the bodies as well. So we were happy with this solution. I think we get it out quickly. Could we have a system where you could have extra drop downs for attached arms and attached legs? I think it's an awesome idea. I think we should start looking into that. But there's no plans for it. But we'll certainly start thinking about it and having great conversations internally about it. Another question, also, how can I submerge a large portion of the map in water? You would have to, because the water plane doesn't change in height, you'd have to drop the entire terrain. And the only way to do that is to do it manually. So I must apologise for that. If I have water, so I drop a big thing like that. There's our water. Now let's say you wanted to flood this area and have water up here, you couldn't. I am adding some Lua commands as soon as I get into the Lua externalising stuff, which can change the water table. So you can either in the editor or in script raise that water and thus flood the terrain. But right now you just have to sink your entire terrain under the water in order to get everything underwater. It's painstaking, but the best idea is to start with, if I go to find level, start like this. Start with an underwater, and then when you want, build up the islands and things that you need. So that's how I would do that one. Well, I got 2 minutes left, so I'll try and be quick with the rest of the questions. Will there be an update for the warehouse tab? In making a zombie game where I have to pull off some magic making the courtyard buildings look like cubes. Yeah, it was always going to be updates to the built-in and stock assets. Because, as graphics improve, we'll want core assets to improve as well. So there will be improvements in that area. But there's no plans to do that in the short term. There's no plan on that. But there are plans around that, like improving the AI, so AI characters can run around a lot more of those things. But if you have any specific suggestions on what's missing from the warehouse area, the warehouse graphics, then send me a separate email and I'll add it to our growing list of what people want to see graphics-wise. Would be nice with a faction system. Again, you could use scripts for that. Scripts are your best friend when it comes to creating specific game logic. And the final question, before I lose my voice, is any plans for a built-in Lua editor? No plans for a built-in Lua editor at this time. You're talking about like a text editor with the syntax in, don't you? Well, there's already good Lua editors out there. I suggest you go and grab one of those. The community has some links to some great Lua editors with built-in syntax highlighting. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's see if that works. And maybe we can have something in the menu that links to it. That would be close enough, maybe. So I certainly recommend you go and find a Lua editor first. Just one more comment, so I'm going to squeeze it in. Couldn't water be added like an object, like in the old days for Quake? Add a box, flag it as water. Yeah, read my mind. And we will be doing that. In addition to a water table, there'll be water cubes of variable dimension. So you can have mountain lakes. So you can have a sea at the bottom and then lots of lakes higher up. I think that'll be crucial. And we'll tie that all in when we do things like swimming, water, water levels, water physics, and all that cool stuff. So that's my hour up. Again, I plan to do half an hour and then rabbit it on for an hour, but hopefully it was crammed with lots of useful information about Game Guru and sneak peeks in terms of assets that you're going to be able to get your hands on very, very soon. Always a fun time. Really happy that you all joined me, even though I moved it from Wednesday to Thursday, so well done there, keeping up with me. It should be back on Wednesday next week, but I can't make any promises because it feels like 6 weeks of meetings, so it may be Ravey back in the seat for 1 or 2 more weeks, but you'll find out sooner or later. So until then, have a great week, make lots of games, have a good time, and me or Ravey will be back next Wednesday to talk more on Game Guru. So until then, I'll say goodbye. Goodbye.